But Arn, in addition to the problems Bill Watts caused during his tenure and his ugly exit from the company, WCW had been searching for an executive producer to oversee all television programming. Uh-oh, here he comes. JR had applied for the job. Tony Schiavone applied for the job. And Eric Bischoff also applied for the job. All these guys have talked about this openly on their respective podcasts. And we all know that Eric Bischoff was ultimately hired as the executive producer of WCW over JR and Tony Schiavone, who, quite frankly, had more experience than Eric in terms of producing televised wrestling. But Bischoff starts his wrestling career in the AWA and joins WCW in the summer of 1991. But Arn, we know that ultimately Eric would enjoy amazing success, helping to light the wrestling world on fire as the president for WCW, the mastermind behind the NWO. But here, Arn, in February of 93, what did you think at the time of Eric Bischoff?
Well, the thing that gets lost a lot of times is Eric was a really good announcer. And I enjoyed, in those days, I was getting plenty of promo time. And I enjoyed working with Eric. He set you up perfectly and would lead you in perfectly. He did a great job. Looked good on camera, the whole shooting match. So, he kind of came out of nowhere, coming, from Gagne down to us. And I wasn't real familiar with him, but before he ever became the boss, he was a really good announcer. So I thought I had a good working relationship with him from day one.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, he obviously knew how to navigate the political scene for Turner for so many years, which, that just doesn't come naturally to someone. They have to be well equipped in order to handle that type of thing. And like we said, it all panned out. As far as armchair quarterback, obviously it was a great decision. And here we sit all these years later, as we mentioned, the behind the NWO strategy and everything he did with Monday Nitro. That's a major step forward in that company's history.
Sure, absolutely, 100%. In those days, if there was political stuff to be handled, Rick did it more so than anybody. He was a very political guy, and I just remember very clearly him saying, Bischoff is the guy for the job. He's going to do a good job. And I don't know if that ever gets mentioned, but he said that to me, and this was in the very beginning. He supported it 100%.
So Rick endorsed him. There you go.
100%. Well, yeah, I know that he did to me, and I'm sure he did to the Bill Shaw or whoever was in charge. I'm sure that went a long way.
And that's interesting, especially if you think about how their relationship would change over the years. We do have a question from Dylan. He says, could Arn see that Eric was on the rise to the top, or did he think executive producer would be as far as Bischoff would go?
No, I mean, it was one of those things. He was going to be a hands-on guy from the way it was explained to us. And, I was along for the ride.
Carl Hayes writes the following: when Eric came aboard, do you think he would be there for as long as he was? It seemed like there was a lot of hot potato with who was in charge during these few years here, and Carl's right. Did you think, hey, this could finally be our leader for the next several years?
Well, when you talk to Eric, he sold himself as being a guy that understood the business. Now, there had been executives, Jim Hurd and different guys that were the boss, but you never saw the boss. He was in the tower, we were out running the deal, and whoever was the interim booker, that was your contact. Very seldom would you talk to the executive in charge of the company. Eric was kind of the first executive that was like at TV all the time, and he was hands-on, and he was more part of the process than anybody before him.